Today, we are going to learn about the final basic data type in Python, Boolean, and also comparison operators which allow us to compare values. Boolean is the simplest data type in Python because it has only two possible values, true and false. In Python, true and false always begin with a capital letter. As you already know, Python is case sensitive, so it's important to write them correctly. You may also remember that when we discussed naming variables, I mentioned that you cannot use Python's reserved keywords as variable names. True and false are Python keywords, so you cannot name a variable true or false. Boolean values are often used to represent the state of something. For example, imagine a user logging into a website. While the user is logged in, you could store the value true. When the user logs out, you won't change the value to false. Whenever the answer to a question can only be yes or no, a Boolean is usually the right data type to use. Before we move on to comparison operators, I'd like to show you something interesting. In Python, Boolean values can also be used in arithmetic expressions. When this happens, Python treats true as the integer 1 and false as the integer 0. It then performs the calculation as normal. Although this behavior can be useful, it's not something you will use very often. I simply wanted you to know that Booleans behave like the integers 1 and 0 in arithmetic expressions. Python provides 6 comparison operators that allow us to compare two values. In the previous lesson, we learned about expressions. Today, we will build expressions using comparison operators. As you may remember, an expression is something that Python can evaluate to produce a single value. With arithmetic expressions, the result might be a number or a string. With comparison expressions, the result is always a Boolean. In other words, every comparison expression evaluates to either true or false. The first two comparison operators are equal to and not equal to. You can use them to compare strings, integers, floats, and even Boolean values. These operators are mainly used with numeric data types such as integers and floats. Unlike the equality operators, they aren't generally used with strings. If you do use them with strings, Python compares the characters one by one using their Unicode values to determine which string is greater or smaller. Remember that a single equals sign stores a value. A double equals sign compares two values. Remembering this difference will help you avoid many common errors. Let's recap what we've learned today. A Boolean has only two possible values, true and false. True and false always begin with a capital letter. Comparison operators compare two values. Every comparison evaluates to either true or false. A single equals sign assigns a value to a variable. A double equals sign compares two values. Congratulations! You've now learned the final basic data type in Python. Booleans and comparison operators are fundamental because they allow your programs to make decisions based on conditions. When comparing values, it's important to understand the data types you are working with and to be explicit about what are you testing. In the next lesson, we will learn how to check the data type of a value, which will help you understand exactly what your variables contain. As the Zen of Python reminds us, explicit is better than implicit. Writing clear and explicit code makes your programs easier to understand, easier to debug, and easier to maintain.